Darren moved fast but careful. The ground under his boots was slippery. Strange vines crawled across the soil, glowing faint green in the morning light. The fog had lifted slightly, but the air was still heavy and wet. His exoskeleton made soft, humming sounds with every step. Lena rested quietly in his arms. Her head leaned against his chest. She hadn't spoken in hours, and her skin felt cold. Milo walked just behind him, holding a scanner. "We're close to the Dead Valley line," he said. "After that, we'll hit the flatlands. If the evac ship's still coming, it'll land there." "Let's keep moving," Darren replied. Nora, the medic, glanced at Lena. "She's not doing well. Her leg needs real treatment. I gave her another patch, but her fever's rising." Bren stayed quiet. He didn't like Lena. He didn't like this mission. His eyes were sharp, always watching the shadows. As they crossed a shallow stream, Lena opened her eyes. She looked up at Darren, confused. "Why are you still carrying me?" "Because you're still breathing." "You're wasting power. Your suit won't last." Darren didn't answer. He adjusted her weight and kept walking. They moved for hours without stopping. The sun on Terrene 4 barely shined. It stayed hidden behind thick clouds. By late afternoon, the group reached a broken hill where old trees had fallen long ago. Strange black birds sat on the branches, watching them without moving. They decided to rest. Darren placed Lena on a dry spot under a tree. Nora checked her again and cleaned her wound. Darren took a moment to check his suit's battery. He was using more power than expected. The suit was strong, but it wasn't made for non-stop travel while carrying another person. "Still good?" Milo asked. Darren gave a small nod. Just then, the sky darkened quickly. Winds began to rise. Fog returned, thicker than before. The black. Birds flew away without a sound. Nora looked up. "That's not normal fog. Something's coming." Darren looked around. His sensors blinked red. "Everyone, stay sharp." Within minutes, they heard it. A loud flapping sound. The air seemed to shift. Branches cracked above them. Then a loud screech filled the air. Sky hounds, creatures with wings like metal, long tails and sharp teeth. They hunted heat and sound. Their claws could cut through armor. They didn't come in packs. They came in storms. Darren turned off his exosuit lights. "Get down, stay quiet." The team dropped low. Darren quickly covered Lena with his body, keeping her heat hidden. She shivered, but didn't make a sound. He wrapped his arms around her, pulled his cloak over them both, and held his breath. One skyhound flew low. Its wings buzzed like a machine. Its eyes glowed faint yellow. It stopped above them, scanning the ground. Lena could feel Darren's chest rising and falling slowly. Even with the weight of the suit, even while hiding from death, he stayed calm. The skyhound shrieked once, circled, then flew off. Minutes passed. No one moved. Then finally Darren lifted his head. "They're gone, for now." Everyone stood slowly. Milo's hands were shaking. Bren looked pale. "That was close," Nora whispered. Darren looked at Lena. She was sweating more now, but her eyes were wide open. "You didn't leave me," she said softly. "Still not planning to." Night came fast. They couldn't risk a fire, so they huddled in the dark under a broken roof of stone. Darren placed Lena beside him and checked her temperature again. She watched him silently. Then, in a tired voice, she said, "You didn't have to shield me. I know. I thought humans hated us. Some do, but I don't carry hate. Just people." She blinked slowly. "You could have died. So could you." He handed her a small ration bar. She took it with shaking fingers. "We don't eat like this," she said. "It's all we've got." She bit into it anyway, wincing at the taste. Across from them, Bren sat with his back to a rock. His voice was low, but sharp. "You still think saving her is the right move?" Darren didn't look up. "I do." "She's not one of us. She didn't ask to be left behind." Bren stood, fists clenched. She's the reason our ship got hit. The Varel broke the code. They shared our path with the enemy. She's not her whole species, Darren said. And we're not perfect either. Bren stared at him for a long time, then walked away, into the darkness to stand guard. Lena watched it all, confused. You fight each other more than we do. Darren gave a tired smile. We've been through too much. That makes some people hard. You're not hard. Maybe I used to be. Lena looked at his face. What happened? I met people like you, left behind, told they weren't worth saving. She didn't answer that. Her eyes stayed on him. Later that night, Milo tapped Darren's arm. You need rest. I'll take second watch. Darren nodded and leaned back. His exosuit shifted slightly, letting him relax without removing it. He kept one arm over Lena, just in case the cold returned. As he started to fall asleep, he heard her voice again. You shouldn't care so much. Maybe not, he replied without opening his eyes. But I do, she whispered one last thing before sleep took them both. Thank you. Morning returned with weak sunlight. The team gathered their gear and began to move again. Darren lifted Lena into his arms once more. She didn't resist this time. Her hand rested lightly against his chest. The path ahead looked rough, sharper. Rocks, narrow trails, deep canyons. But Darren didn't stop. With every step, his exosuit groaned. But his mind stayed firm. They had survived the first night. But many more dangers waited ahead, and Darren knew he would carry her through all of them. The second day began with silence. No birds, no wind. The ground was dry and cracked. The clouds above seemed heavier, like they were pressing down on the land. Darren stepped carefully, his exosuit making soft clicks with each motion. Lena was light in his arms, but the long hours made the weight feel heavier. He had stopped checking the battery. If it ran out, it ran out. He would carry her anyway. Milo walked ahead with his scanner. Bren stayed behind them, keeping watch. Nora moved from side to side, always alert for traps or movement. They walked through broken ground and over long cracks that reached deep into the earth. Some holes hissed with steam. The heat below was rising. It meant they were entering the fault zone, the most unstable part of Taurine 4. They had to cross it to reach the evac site. We need to stop soon, Nora said. Lena's burning up again. Darren nodded. We'll find cover. They reached a small cave under a cliff wall. It smelled of minerals and old air, but it was safe for now. Darren placed Lena down gently. Her eyes were half closed and her forehead was wet with sweat. Her voice was soft, barely more than a breath. Why do you keep helping me? Because you matter. No one ever said that to me before. Nora knelt beside her and checked the wound. Infection is spreading. The med patches are slowing it, but she needs real treatment soon. She'll get it, Darren said. Bren stood with arms crossed. If she slows us anymore, we might miss evac. The ship won't wait. She's not slowing me, Darren replied. I carry her, not you. Bren didn't answer. He turned away and walked out to check the area. Later, while the others rested, Darren sat beside Lena. He wiped her forehead with a clean cloth and gave her water. She looked at him. You don't even know me. You told me your name. That's a start. I was born small, weak. My people think strength is everything. They train us from childhood to fight, to hunt, to lead. I couldn't pass the tests. My legs were too soft. My bones cracked easy. They called me broken. Is that why your unit left you? She nodded. They said it was logical, that I'd slow them down. I wasn't angry. I expected it. Darren looked at her, then out toward the hills. When I was younger, he said, my squad got trapped in a burning station. One of us couldn't walk. The leader said we had to leave him. I refused. I carried him 2 kilometers through fire and gas. We both made it, but the leader said I broke orders. I got punished. They gave me a medal later, but that didn't matter. I never forgot what it felt like, carrying someone who thought they were finished. Lena blinked. So that's why you're doing this? I carry you because it's right. Not because of a memory, not because of rules, because you deserve to live. A long pause followed. Then Lena whispered, I wish I had met someone like you earlier. In the afternoon, the ground started to shake. Darren stood quickly, holding Lena close. The others looked around. Earth tremor, Milo said. A strong one. Rocks fell from above. Cracks opened wider. The cave shook, but didn't collapse. Once it passed, Nora checked the path ahead. There's a slope down to the lower ridge. We can use it to move faster, but the ground is unstable. Let's risk it, Darren said. We don't have time to wait. They followed a narrow path down the slope. Dirt crumbled beneath their boots. Bren moved ahead, clearing loose stones. Darren took each step carefully. One slip could send both him and Lena down the hill. Halfway down, the path broke. A deep gap split across the trail. The ground had fallen away during the tremor. Below it was a steep drop into a dried-out river filled with sharp rock spikes. Milo looked down. Too wide to jump. Darren studied the gap. His exosuit could make the jump, but barely. With Lena in his arms, it would be dangerous. One mistake, and they both would fall. I'll go first, he said. Are you sure? Nora asked. I'll carry her. The suit has one more boost in it. After that, we walk. He took a few steps back, tightened his grip around Lena, and breathed slowly. Lena held on to him, her face pressed against his chest. Then he ran. The exosuit's motors screamed as they launched into a burst. For a second, they were in the air, floating above nothing. Then they landed hard on the other side. Darren stumbled, fell to one knee, but kept hold of Lena. Milo and Nora cheered quietly. Bren began setting up rope to help the others cross one. By one, Lena looked up at Darren, eyes wide. You could have died. So could you, he said with a tired smile. By evening, they found a high ledge where they could rest. Below them, lights flickered in the sky. Flares. That meant the evac ship was still looking for survivors. It was only one day away. Nora checked Lena again. She's stable for now, but we need to get there by tomorrow. We will, Darren said. As night fell, Lena asked for something she had never asked before. Will you tell me something about your home? Darren thought for a moment. I used to live near a river. There was a tree behind my house, big, with red leaves. I climbed it every summer. That's where I first learned to be still, to watch, to listen. Lena closed her eyes. I like that. You'll see it someday, he said. You really think I'll make it? You've already made it farther than anyone expected. She smiled. Only because you're carrying me. No. Because you never gave up. They slept under the stars that night. Darren didn't sleep much. He watched the skies. He listened for sounds. And once, when Lena began to cry softly in her sleep, he wiped her tears and held her tighter. Morning would come soon, and he would carry her through whatever came next. The third day began with wind. It wasn't strong, but it carried dust that stung the eyes and dried the lips. Darren stood near the edge of a deep gorge. He looked down at the path carved through the rocks. It was narrow and dark, but it was the only way forward. The evac signal was close now. If they made it through this gorge, they would reach the drop zone by nightfall. Lena rested in his arms. Her breathing was stronger than the day before. The infection was slowing. She still couldn't walk, but her eyes had more light in them. Is that the way? She asked softly. It's the only way, Darren replied. Milo walked beside them, scanning the walls with his device. The gorge is old. Looks safe from above, but I'm picking up movement down there. Could be animals, Nora said. Could be worse. Bren stepped forward and pulled out his rifle. I'll go first. If someone's waiting to ambush us, better they shoot at me than at the girl. Darren nodded. Careful. Don't move. Too far ahead. The team began to move into the gorge. The tall stone walls blocked the sun, making the air feel colder. The ground was covered with small rocks that shifted under their feet. Sounds echoed strangely between the walls. Even whispers came back in broken pieces. They walked in silence for a while. Then they saw something strange. A broken helmet on the ground. Not human, not Varel. Something else. Burn marks covered the surface. This isn't good, Milo said. Stay. Sharp, Darren warned. They moved slower now. Nora stayed close to Darren, keeping her eyes on the cliffs above. Bren moved like a shadow, his weapon ready. Suddenly, a sharp sound cut through the silence, a high whistle. Then the trap was sprung. A wall of metal spikes fell from above, blocking their path behind them. At the same moment, attackers dropped. From the cliffs, humans and aliens mixed together, wearing old armor and using stolen weapons. Deserters, scavengers, people who lived by stealing from the weak. There they are, one shouted. Get the suit, leave the rest. Darren set Lena down behind a large rock. Stay hidden, she reached out. You can't fight them all. I don't plan to. I just have to keep them back. The exosuit hissed as Darren stepped forward. He didn't have many tools left. His energy was low, but he still had strength. He picked up a long metal pipe from the ground and gripped it like a weapon. The first attacker charged. Darren blocked the strike, then hit him hard in the chest. The man fell back, gasping. Two more came from the side. Darren turned fast, using his shoulder to knock one away and swinging the pipe into the other's legs. Behind him, Milo and Bren fired carefully. Nora pulled Lena back into cover and threw a small flare toward the enemy, blinding them for a few seconds. The attackers didn't expect this much resistance. They're just a broken team, one shouted. Why are they fighting so hard? Because they have something worth fighting for, Bren shouted back. Darren moved fast despite the weight of the suit. He was like a wall of force. Every time someone got close, he pushed them back. His arms were bruised. His face was cut, but he didn't stop. Then one of the attackers threw a smoke bomb. The gorge filled with thick black fog. Shots rang out in the dark. Darren couldn't see. He backed up, coughing, trying to find Lena. He heard her call his name. Then a shape appeared through the smoke. An enemy with a blade charged toward Lena's hiding spot. Darren didn't think. He jumped between them and took the full hit to his chest plate. Sparks flew. Pain rushed through his body. But the blade didn't reach Lena. He turned and struck the attacker with all his strength. The man flew backward and didn't get up again. The smoke began to clear. One by one, the attackers fell back. Their leader shouted, "It's not worth it! Pull out!" In moments, they were gone. Only silence remained. Darren dropped to one knee. The front of his suit was cracked. His arms were shaking. Blood ran down his side. Nora ran to him quickly. "You're hurt." "I'm fine. Check Lena." "I'm okay," Lena said, her voice weak but steady. "You stopped them." "You saw them too late," Bren said, helping Nora. "We almost got surrounded." "Next time I'll watch the cliffs better," Darren replied. "There won't be a next time," Bren said, this time without anger. "That was the last big danger. We're almost there." They took a short rest under a broken ledge. Nora cleaned Darren's wounds as best she could. Milo checked the suit. It still worked? Barely. Lena looked at Darren. Her eyes were wet. "You were willing to die. For me again. I told you. I'm not leaving you behind. I don't understand you. Maybe you don't have to. Just trust me." "I do now." As they reached the end of the gorge, the sun broke through the clouds for the first time in days. A warm light touched the ground, soft and golden. In the distance, the flatlands stretched wide. Smoke markers from the evac ship rose in the air. They were close. Darren lifted Lena once more. His body screamed in pain, but he kept going. Bren clapped him on the back. "I still don't understand you, but I respect you." Milo smiled. "Let's finish this." Darren looked down at the girl in his arms. She gave a small nod. "We're going home," he said, and they moved forward together. The flatlands stretched before them like an endless sea of gray stones and twisted metal. The sky hung heavy with dark clouds, threatening rain. Darren adjusted the exoskeleton's power settings. His suit was almost empty. Every movement now was slower, heavier. But he could not stop. Not when the evac ship was so close. Lena lay quietly in his arms. Her breathing was steady but shallow. Her skin was pale, but her eyes were stronger than before. She looked up at Darren and whispered, "How much farther?" "Not far," he said. "Just one more climb." Ahead was a tall cliff wall, jagged. Rocks reached into the sky like giant teeth. The path around it was broken and dangerous. They had no choice but to climb. Milo and Nora led the way, carrying light gear. Bren stayed close behind, watching the sides for threats. Darren took a deep breath and stepped forward. The exosuit's motors struggled as he moved closer to the cliff. He gripped Lena tighter. The first step onto the rocky path was slow, loose. Stones shifted underfoot. The wind picked up, pushing against his back. Lena's head rested against his chest. "Do you want me to try walking?" she asked softly. Darren shook his head. "Not yet. You need rest." She closed her eyes. "I'm sorry I slowed you down." "You didn't," Darren said firmly. "I carry you because I want to." As they climbed higher, the path narrowed. The stones were sharp and cold. Each step required balance and care. Darren used the exosuit's strength to pull himself up. Sometimes he stopped to catch his breath. Halfway up, the sky darkened further. Rain began to fall, cold and steady. The rocks became slippery. Darren's suit sensors beeped urgently. The battery was nearly gone. "We need to hurry," Milo said from below. Darren nodded but didn't speed up. He was careful not to slip. Lena tightened her grip on his suit. Suddenly, the ground beneath them trembled. A small landslide started above, sending rocks tumbling down the cliff. "Watch out!" Bren shouted. Darren turned his body to shield Lena. Large stones crashed near them. One hit the exosuit's arm, denting the metal. Another bounced off the rocks, missing them by inches. With slow, steady moves, Darren carried Lena past the danger zone. His heart pounded. His muscles ached. But he did not stop. Near the top of the cliff, a narrow ledge offered a small place to rest. Darren placed Lena gently on the ledge. Her eyes fluttered open. "You're strong," she said softly. "I'm carrying the strongest person I know," he replied. She smiled faintly. "I never thought anyone would care." Darren looked at her. "People care more than you think. Sometimes it takes time to find them." Milo joined them, checking the surroundings. "The evac is less than an hour away, but we have to cross the last ridge." "Then let's move," Darren said. He lifted Lena again, feeling every ounce of her weight in his arms. His suit gave one last warning beep before going silent. He was on his own power now. The final ridge was steep and covered with loose gravel. Darren used his own strength to climb. Each step was a test. His legs burned. His breath came short. Lena watched him quietly. "You don't have to do this," she whispered. He shook his head. "I chose this." Near the top, Darren slipped once but caught himself just in time. Lena gasped softly. "You're almost there," she said. "I'm not stopping." The sun broke through the clouds briefly, shining warm light on the rocky peak. They reached the top and saw the evac ship waiting, surrounded by flares and rescue teams. Darren felt relief flood his body. He smiled despite the pain. Bren and Milo rushed up beside him. Nora followed, carrying medical supplies. "Thank you," Lena said quietly, "for not leaving me." Darren held her close. "I never will." The rescue team lifted them onto the ship. Doctors took Lena to a med bay quickly. Darren sat down, his body exhausted but proud. The journey had been long and hard, but they had made it. As the ship lifted off, Darren looked down at the world below, the fog, the cliffs, the dangers, all behind them now. He felt Lena's hand brush his. "We survived," she said softly. "Yes," he answered. Together. The evac ship's bright lights filled the small med bay. Nurses and doctors moved quickly around Lena, checking her wounds and giving her medicine. Darren sat in the corner, his body aching but his mind restless. He watched as Lena's breathing grew easier. Her color returned slowly. Outside the window, the world of Taurine 4 shrank beneath the ship. The fog, the cliffs, the harsh land, all left behind. But Darren's thoughts stayed with the dangers they had passed. Suddenly, alarms blared. The ship shook. "Drones!" a pilot shouted. "Enemy drones are attacking!" Darren stood quickly. Nurses pushed him back, but he ignored them. He moved toward the ship's main deck. Outside, the sky was filled with fast-moving shapes. Small, but deadly drones armed with lasers. They swarmed like angry hornets. "Defensive systems, activate!" the captain ordered. The ship's shields flared to life. Laser beams cut through the drones, but many kept coming. Darren's mind raced. They were close to safety, but the drones wanted to stop them. He grabbed a laser rifle from a nearby weapons rack. His exosuit was offline, but his training was not. He ran to the ship's open hatch where rescue pods were loaded. Lena was still weak, but Darren had to protect her. Back in the med bay, Lena struggled to sit up as the ship rocked. She heard shouting and explosions outside. Darren appeared, rifle in hand. "Stay here," he told the medical team. Then he lifted Lena gently into his arms. "We have to move," he said. Lena nodded. "I'm ready." Carrying her, Darren ran toward the hatch. Outside, the sky burned with laser fire. Explosions lit the clouds. A drone locked onto them. Its red eye glowed bright. It fired a beam directly at Darren. He raised his arm to block, but the laser burned through the exosuit's thin armor. Sparks flew. The blast knocked him back, but he held Lena tight. Lena gasped, but didn't scream. Darren fired his rifle, hitting the drone. It exploded into small pieces. More drones came. He moved quickly, dodging blasts, using crates and containers for cover. Lena's head rested against his shoulder. He felt her heartbeat. A drone dove toward them. Lena grabbed a broken enemy rifle from a nearby table. She raised it, took aim, and fired. The shot was perfect. The drone crashed into the ship's side and fell away. Darren looked at her with surprise. "You saved us." She smiled weakly. "I had to." Behind them, the ship's crew fought back hard. The drone swarm started to thin. The captain called out, "Prepare for emergency jump! We have to get out now!" Darren carried Lena to the closest rescue pod. The hatch sealed behind them. The pod shook as it launched away from the ship. Inside, the small space, Lena looked at Darren. "You didn't have to carry me through all that. I wanted to. You saved me more than once. We save each other." The pod systems showed a path to a safe zone. The ship was leaving the combat area quickly. After the pod landed on a nearby moon base, medical teams rushed to help. Lena was taken to a special med bay. Darren waited outside, exhaustion heavy on his face. A doctor came out. "She's stable now. The infection is under control. She will recover fully." Darren nodded, relief washing over him. Later, Lena woke. She saw Darren sitting beside her bed. "Thank you," she said softly. For everything. He smiled tiredly. You don't have to thank me. I want to. You don't owe me. They sat quietly for a moment. Outside the window, stars shone brightly. Lena asked, "What will happen now?" "We tell the world what happened. How far people will go to help each other, even when it seems impossible." She smiled. "Maybe people will see us differently. Now." Maybe. Days passed. The story of Darren carrying Lena for 3 days through danger spread across many worlds. People watched the footage of their journey. The quiet man carrying the weak alien girl became a symbol of hope, of courage, of kindness. Lena stood before a crowd at the space station. She spoke for the first time since her rescue. We are not defined by our weaknesses. We are defined by those who stand by us when we fall. Darren carried me not because I was strong, but because he believed I was worth saving. The crowd cheered. Darren watched quietly. He never sought praise, but this moment made him feel that maybe, just maybe, their struggle meant something greater. The crowd had faded. The lights of the station dimmed as the ceremony ended. Yet Darren and Lena remained where they were, standing quietly near the observation window. The stars outside twinkled softly, endless and calm. Lena looked up at Darren. Her violet eyes held new strength and hope. "You carried me through hell," she said softly. "Why?" Darren shrugged, a small smile on his lips. "Because someone once carried me. Because no one should be left behind." She nodded, thinking about the long journey they had shared. The pain, the fear, the moments of silence and words spoken softly in the dark. She had learned that true strength came from standing with others, not alone. "What will you do now?" she asked. "I'm not sure," Darren replied. "Maybe help others who need someone to carry them. Maybe try to change things for people like you. And me." Lena smiled. "I want to help too. Maybe together we can change more than just one life." Days turned into weeks. Lena's wounds healed fully. The infection was gone. Her legs were still weak, but her spirit was strong. Darren and Lena spent long hours talking, planning. They spoke with leaders, with scientists, with people who had once doubted the worth of those like Lena. Slowly, walls began to break. People who saw their story started to change how they thought about strength and weakness, about loyalty and hope. One afternoon, Darren received a message. It was from an old friend, a leader who worked to help refugees and survivors across the galaxy. "We need you," the message said. "Your story inspires many. Join us." Darren thought about the journey he had taken carrying Lena through danger and pain, about the power of kindness and courage. He looked at Lena. She smiled back, ready for whatever came next. Together, they answered the call. Months later, they stood on a new ship bound for a distant world. It was a place where many had been forgotten or left behind. Darren wore a new exosuit, lighter and stronger. Lena walked beside him now, steady and sure. The ship lifted off, carrying hope and a promise that no one would ever be left behind again. As the stars raced past the windows, Darren felt a deep peace. The journey was far from over, but for the first time he believed they were moving forward, not just surviving but changing the universe, and Lena squeezed his hand. Together they were unstoppable. Terrene 4 was not made for humans. The sky stayed gray. The winds howled like wild animals. Every step on its broken ground felt like walking on glass. Darren adjusted the strap of his rifle and looked around. His boots sank slightly into the wet soil. His squad moved carefully behind him. 4 people, tired, cold, and low on supplies. Their small scout ship had crashed after a surprise attack. The rest of the unit was either missing or dead. They needed shelter, and they needed it soon. Fogs, Coming in fast, said Milo, the youngest in the group. His face was pale and scared. Darren nodded. Keep your eyes open. These hills like to hide things. The group moved toward a ridge where broken trees leaned like old skeletons. The fog rolled in like a wave, covering the path. Then they heard it. A sharp rustling sound. Darren raised his fist, signaling everyone to stop. He turned slowly and pointed toward the sound. The team spread out, ready for trouble. Then they saw her. She was lying between two rocks, half covered in leaves and dirt. Thin arms, pale skin with soft lines that shimmered like glass. A young alien girl from the Varel species. Her breathing was shallow. Her left leg was twisted badly. The sharp metal of a broken bone showed through the skin. Is she alive? Whispered Nora, the team's medic. Darren moved closer and knelt beside the girl. Her eyes opened slightly. Big, violet eyes, filled with pain. She looked at him, then down at her own leg. Don't waste time, she said, her voice soft and broken. Leave me here. Her accent was rough but clear. We can't do that, Darren said. She's Varel, growled Bren, the biggest soldier in the group. Her kind left humans behind last year on Dusk Point. Remember that? She's a kid, Nora said sharply. The girl winced as she tried to move. Even my people don't want me. You'll die if you take me. Darren didn't speak. He looked at her leg again. The bleeding had slowed, but the damage was bad. She wouldn't walk. Not for days. He stood up, walked over to his pack, and pulled out his exoskeleton unit. It was heavy, worn, and old, a second-gen military model meant for lifting weight and climbing cliffs. He locked it onto his chest and legs with a soft hiss of air. The motors inside clicked to life. Then, without a word, he walked back and gently picked the girl up in his arms. Her eyes widened in surprise. "What are you doing?" she whispered. "Saving your life," Darren said. She turned her face away. "You'll die for nothing." Then let me die on my own terms. They moved quickly through the thick fog. The cold wind burned their cheeks. Milo stayed close, watching their sides. Nora scanned with her sensor tablet, though the fog interfered with the readings. The girl rested in Darren's arms, barely awake. Every few minutes, she tried to speak. Every time, Darren told her to save her energy. "You never asked my name," she said softly. Darren looked down at her. "Do you want me to know it?" She nodded weakly. "Lena." "All right then. Lena, we're going to get out of this." Bren still looked angry. "She's slowing us down. If command sees this, we'll be court-martialed." "There's no command out here," Darren said. "Just us, and what we choose to be." They reached a dry patch under a rock shelf and decided to rest for the night. Nora checked Lena's leg. She gave her a pain patch and wrapped the wound tightly. The alien girl didn't flinch once. "She's tough," Nora said, "but she needs real help soon." Darren laid her down on a folded thermal blanket and sat beside her. He checked his suit's battery. It had enough power for 2 more days, maybe 3 if he didn't use the heavy functions. He would have to carry her the whole way. That was fine. He had carried heavier loads in worse places. Lena looked at him again. "Why are you doing this?" Darren paused. The firelight danced across his scarred face. "Because nobody carried me," he said quietly. "Not when I needed it." That night, strange noises filled the air. Terrene 4 was known for its skyhounds, flying beasts that hunted in low light and used heat to track prey. One of them passed close overhead, its wings cutting through the fog like blades. The squad held their breath. Lena trembled, but Darren placed his hand gently over her shoulder. She stayed quiet. The creature passed, without finding them. Later, while the others rested, Lena spoke again. "You shouldn't trust me. I was born weak. My bones never grew right. My unit thought I was a burden. So they left me. That's how we survive." Darren shook his head. That's how you stop being people. She didn't respond. For a moment, she just stared at the fire. You're strange, she whispered. You haven't seen strange yet, Darren replied with a tired smile. When dawn came, the fog cleared a little. In the distance, over the mountains, flashes of light showed where other battles still raged. The evac point was 3 days away. Darren stood, locked the exosuit tighter, and lifted Lena into his arms again. Ready? He asked. She didn't argue, this time. Just before they left, Milo asked, You sure about this, sir? Darren nodded. I didn't carry her this far to stop now. And so they walked into the rising wind, one human carrying one broken alien, both moving forward through a world that wanted them gone.